Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Today, we're going to answer a lot of viewer questions on tomatoes, watermelons, bees, birds, and more. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. This week, we're going to answer lots of viewer questions we have received over the past few months. We are dividing the questions into 2 categories. In a few minutes, we will talk about insects and animals. But first, here are some questions we have gotten about plants. The tree in my backyard is dripping a sticky sap-like mess everywhere, which causes everything to be sticky. What in the tree is causing that?
We know what that is. It'd be good to know what kind of tree that is.
Yeah, it would be good to know what kind of tree. Yeah, we don't know what
I'll
kind.
bet it's either a pecan or maybe a maple, or but it's the aphids in that tree are secreting a substance called honeydew, and the leaves are probably shining, and that's very common situation. I wouldn't worry about it. Aphids normally, when they build up to very high levels, predators will come in and feed on them, and also there are diseases that take aphids out. So I wouldn't worry a whole lot about that. The sticky substance that drops on everything, pretty soon another substance is going to start growing on that sticky substance called sooty mold. Sooty mold. And it'll turn black, and so it would be a good idea, especially if it's your car under there, to wash it. You know, wash everything that this sticky stuff is falling on. Wash it off, and you can use detergent, regular detergent, take it off, and maybe prevent the sooty mold from taking over.
All right, so it's honeydew.
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 So the next time you're walking under a tree and it's not raining, it could be
honeydew. And that's a very nice way of saying aphid poo-poo.
So that's what it could be. My tomatoes have rotted on the vine while still green. Ooh. Why is that, Doc?
Oh, gee, I don't know. That one really, a picture would have been really good, because rotting to me may not be exactly what he thinks is rotting, or she. So we talked about this a little bit, Chris, and you think, in this, I think it's probably right, that if it's the bottom or the blossom end of the fruit that's rotting, that's blossom end rot. Right. But if it's rotting in other parts of the fruit, that's just some kind of disease, some kind of
blight or something.
So yeah. Right. So, again, with the fungicide treatment, but if it's the blossom end rot, that's a problem with water uptake, because of calcium not being taken up in the water. So having plenty of water, even soil moisture, checking your pH, make sure you've got the available calcium, the pH is right, should take care of that.
Okay. What is the best way to keep all tall plants from falling over, especially in the wind?
Becky, let's let you go first.
Okay, I would stake them in some way.
Yeah.
Or put them close to a fence so they have something to lean up against.
Okay.
That thing.
Okay, go.
Well, the other plants can provide some support.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you can buy these expensive little circular dudes at good gardening shops that actually the English use a lot. They're like little mini tomato cages.
I've seen those.
That'll support it. But a cheaper way for us to do it, and more down home for the South, is to get just a big old piece of what I call hog wire fencing. And just set that out in the garden, let them grow up through it. And then they'll be supported if you know it's going to be a floppy plant.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I've seen that, of course, in some of the garden centers where you can buy it. That little hog wire.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a real good idea. Is it possible to have blossom end rot on watermelons? It kind of looks like the same thing that happened on my tomatoes. What do you think about that, Tanya? Is it possible? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And I would say the first thing you need to do is soil test. It could be a problem with calcium uptake. You may need to add lime for the next growing season. And blossom end rot can be also caused by uneven moisture levels or the moisture fluctuation. So make sure that in times of drought they're getting water. So that's what you can do in the short term, is make sure that you water appropriately, and then for next year soil test and lime if needed. Is that what you think?
That's it. I mean, if you, I know under real dry conditions, even if you have adequate calcium out there, under really dry conditions, the plant can't take it up. And so keep them watered, and if your pH is right, you keep them watered, and you ought to be okay.
Yeah, and I always like to tell folks to mulch. It helps regulate soil moisture. So I think that'll be a good tool as well.
And also keep in mind that little spot got on that fruit when it was small. And just because you start doing measures, that little spot's not going to go away. As a matter of fact, as that fruit grows, that little spot's going to grow.
It continues to get
so
bigger.
what you're trying to take care of are the other fruit that do not have that little spot on it. You want to keep them from getting that little spot on it.
Hi, Chris. I think I should have you over for supper. As many questions as I ask. We need to check that out. Okay.
What's on the menu?
Yeah, we need to see about that one. What are these bumps on my pecan tree? These bumps are everywhere, but only on one tree. Thanks, Miss Robin. And guess what, Miss Robin? We have here today Mr. D, who knows all about pecans. So we're going to sit back and listen.
I used to live with pecans.
That's right.
Yeah, that's pecan phylloxera.
Right.
Very common. It's called by an insect that basically lays an egg during bud break, right at bud break. And we actually have a home pecan
Good.
fact sheet, if I can find it. Oh, here we are. Homeowner pecan spray guide that I took out of the Red Book.
Okay.
You may want to make you a copy of that. That tells you how to control pecan phylloxera. I'm interested in, she said she only had one tree that had it. Does that mean she only has one pecan tree? Or it will not get on other trees. It doesn't get on oaks or maples or things like that. But if you will spray at bud break, and this is before you, if the tree is small enough, if this is a small specimen pecan tree that's 10, 12 feet tall, you can spray it at bud break with thiamyl, malathion, Merit 75WP, or Merit 2F.
Okay.
That one application will take care of phylloxera. You don't have to go down through the rest of the spray schedule to control phylloxera. That's the only one, and it just shows up this time of the year. And there's leaf phylloxera, there's stem phylloxera. It gets on the leaf and the stem.
Will it hurt the plant in any way?
It's not going to hurt the plant. It looks bad. It can be rather unsightly, but it's not going to kill the tree. It's not going to hurt the tree that much. If you've got a 100-foot tall pecan tree, you can't do anything about it in a homeowner situation. Commercial growers have no problem with it because they have air blast sprayers.
That's right.
They go out there with their bud break sprays and take care of it.
I have a red/brown large spots on our potted euchera. What is it and how can I control it? And this is from George. I have euchera in my own yard, in my own landscape. Some of the same spots, okay? It's just leaf spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's just a leaf spot. Practice good sanitation. Make sure there's a space between the plants, of course, because you want those leaves to dry off. Make sure you have well-drained soils, though. You definitely need that for your euchera. And if you must, because that's what he's asking here is for control, you can use a fungicide. Now, I always tell folks, let's use the safer fungicides. Let's go with the copper soaps. Sulfur is something else that's safe. If you don't want to use those, then there's the chlorothianil, which is daconil. Right. Which is something that you can use. But I always, like to mention the safer, greener products first, like the copper soaps and the sulfur. But there you have it. It's just leaf spot. And we've seen a lot of leaf spot this year because guess what? The weather. Of the rain. The weather, pretty much dictates, what's going to happen, what diseases we're going to see for the most part.
That's true, yeah.
And these spots are right on the veins, right? So that leads me to believe it's leaf spot.
Yeah, it sounds like it to me too.
It's leaf spot.
And with all the rain we've had, it's
That's what
hard
I'm
to
saying.
keep. Even
That's
if
right.
you were spraying with a fungicide, it's more of a protectant. It's not
Right,
curative.
right.
So, you know, the rain washes it off. You got to go back and spray again, and it rains again. And what the rain does is just splatter those little pathogen spores all over the place. So it's
Sure
hard
does.
to control, you know, leaf spots and things when we have a lot of rain.
She does. And that's a good point, Doc, because again, now, it's not going to correct this leaf.
Right.
You know, so this leaf is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, but it can protect some of those other leaves. Because
I would tell them-
are
I would tell
protective
them-
in nature.
Yeah,
Preventative in nature.
Exactly. I would tell them too, if it's not a lot of leaves, if it's just a few, like you said, practice some sanitation and just remove them.
Yeah,
you
just
know,
take 'em
get
off.
rid of them, destroy them, and hopefully, you know, maybe that might be a good way to kind of control it.
I think it would be. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. This week, we are catching up on answering viewer questions. Here are some questions about animals and insects. We're going to start off with Japanese beetles. How do you control Japanese beetles? They are eating everything in sight in my garden. He's already shaking his head.
You know, they've just been such a pain this year. There's so many of them, and they've been here for a long time, and it looks like they're not going anywhere. They're a problem in farmer soybean fields, and you know, they don't do a lot of damage. Well, they actually do a lot of damage. The damage they do, they have chewing mouth parts. They have little bitty mouths though, and so they basically skeletonize leaves. And you know, I'm thinking if we continue to have problems like this, we're going to have to start to go earlier with some of the soil products. And I know in the Red Book it mentions Marathon in April, soil application around your ornamentals, so you may want to do that. The only problem is they're very strong flyers, and you can kill everything in your, if you kill all the larvae, they're like a white grubworm larvae in your soil, so they do damage your turf grass when they feed on, and other plants when they feed in the soil as larvae, but they can really make your ornamentals look bad, and in agricultural settings we don't normally recommend. Soybeans can take a tremendous amount of leaf damage. Okay. They can tolerate a tremendous amount of leaf damage without it adversely affecting the yield. And probably our ornamentals can too, but it just looks bad. And an aesthetic, you know, you have an aesthetic threshold. Everybody's aesthetic threshold is different. And but the things, the other 7, Tempo, Decathlon, Tempo SC Ultra, Palstar, Scimitar, June, July, and early August, spray weekly. You know, weekly. And that's not W-E-A-K-L-Y, that's W-E-E-K-L-Y.
Weekly, he said.
Aggressively spray weekly. There you are.
Do you have any of those problems with Japanese beetles in your landscape?
Yeah, I do. I actually have in my hanging baskets, I have a potato vine that's coming down, and I have these beautiful skeletons of potato leaves. Yeah. They're beautiful.
Yeah, they definitely would skeletonize your leaves. And Mr. D, you wanted to add something else to that?
Yeah, I do. A lot of folks, including a lot of my relatives, buy these bags at lawn and garden centers that have a pheromone attractant in it, and it attracts these, and in just a matter of hours they get completely full, almost. You know, in a day or two they completely fill up with the Japanese beetles, and there's an insecticide in there, and it kills them. So you've got a big bag of dead Japanese beetles, and it works. I mean, you can get some pleasure out of seeing those dead Japanese beetles. But the thing that folks I don't think understand is that pheromone, there's a pheromone attractant that's in that bag that attracts Japanese beetles. And you may think you're only getting the ones in your yard, but they're downwind. If they can smell that pheromone, the males are coming, so you may be bringing in Japanese beetles from miles away, you know, to your backyard. And so you got to kind of weigh the advantages and disadvantages of doing that.
Yeah.
No bags for me.
No, thank you. No.
I'll answer that for myself. Last year, I had a problem with birds eating my blueberries. You sure you didn't send this one in, Mr. D? How do I keep them out of my bushes so they will not eat them all again?
There's some things you can try, and then something that you're probably going to have to do.
Here we go.
The things you can try are an owl.
Okay.
You know, stick you an owl up there as to try to scare those birds away, or a snake. You know, you can scatter you some plastic snakes around, and those might give you some temporary relief. But what you're probably going to have to do is put net around it, bird net. You know, you can put your structure around them, and of course you only need them on there when the blueberries are ripe.
Right.
So you know, you're talking about June for 3 or 4 weeks, and these rabbit eye type blueberries, they only get 20 feet tall, you know, in our area. So you only have to go 25 feet tall unless you prune them down to a smaller size. And you can bring them down. You can control the height a little bit so that you only have to build a 10 or 12 foot tall structure around them. But that's the only way I know of. You know, there's certainly nothing you can spray to keep the birds out.
No, there's nothing you can do.
But I would try the frightening agents, and you may want to hang some. I don't know that the little noisemakers will help a lot, but owls, and I've seen owls and I've seen snakes work for a little while.
For a little while.
But birds are pretty smart.
Oh yeah.
They figure those things out pretty quick.
Red wasps are in every nook and cranny outside my home. Is there any way to keep wasps from making their home at my home? And this is from Miss Liz. I like that. Wasps. So when I think of wasps, they like to be in areas where there's like open containers, where there's food around. So trash bins and things like that. So make sure you don't have any, spoiled fruit or anything like that lying around your area. The second thing is this, because I actually do this at home. So they make, their homes, of course, but the homes start out real small.
Yeah.
If we can spot them in time enough, I'd knock them down with
the
broom.
paper wasp?
Yeah, the paper wasp, I just knock them off with a broom and try to discourage them from coming back in the area again. And then thirdly, hey, you got nook and crannies, I would try to seal those up.
Yeah.
Any little holes or anything like that, I would seal that up. And hopefully that would discourage them from coming in as well.
They can, they hurt too.
Oh,
when
yeah.
they sting
I'm
you.
a witness to that,
some people are
too.
allergic,
Yeah.
which is kind of a real serious situation for some people. So they can be bad, and they'll want to get right under your porch.
Right under. Right under.
Yeah. Or we had one time that we had like a picnic table like this, and we had benches. You'd sit down, and there were wasps under the bench, and they'd come out and sting you right in the fatty part of your leg. Boy, you would just about flip the picnic bench over because, those things, just like getting hit with a hammer.
Oh, yeah. I've been a witness to that.
So they can be in sort of scary places, so not a good thing.
Not a good thing, but if you can do those things I just mentioned, I mean, that would help to discourage them.
It would.
From coming around.
It's good ideas.
All right, Miss Liz, you be careful out there with those wasps. Can you have Mr. D talk about controlling possums? I live in rural Shelby County, and they are wearing my place out. Mr. D, can you help us?
Well, fortunately, since you live in a rural area,
here we go.
then you can use my #1 control
And
method
I know
for
what that
controlling
control
possums.
method is.
It's a 12-year-old with a 20-gauge shotgun, and number 6 shot or larger. That will do the trick. And I'm reading this right here from my damage prevention and control of wildlife damage publication, and right down here. It said, well, actually, it doesn't say a 12-year-old, but it does say shooting can be effective where firearms are permitted. And fortunately, in rural areas, firearms are permitted. Use a shotgun with number 6 shot or a .22 caliber rifle.
Wow.
And another good thing about possums, they're really intelligent. They are intelligent critters, but they don't act intelligent. And they're not wary of people. They will easily go into traps. You can use, I see the baits that you can use for a live trap, vegetables, apple slices, sardines, scrap meat, canned dog food, chicken entrails. I don't know where you're going to get those. Fish, table scraps, any of those things will attract a possum.
Pretty easy.
And so trapping them, they are nocturnal primarily. if you see one running around in the daytime, be very careful because they can carry rabies. Not as common as raccoons, but they can carry rabies, but they are primarily nocturnal. If you've got a problem with them, go out every once in a while with a good high-powered light, you know, and spotlight, and shine it around your property and blast them. I don't know of any better method to control them. Really, I don't. Maybe if you let your Jack Russell run free out in your yard all the time, you know, at night, that would probably take care of it too.
All right. But in rural Shelby County,
12-year-old with a 20-gauge shotgun, hard to beat.
Hard to beat. All right. What is the best way to get rid of ground bees? They have taken over my yard. How about that, Mitch? Ground bees.
You know, most of the time when I've seen heavy infestations of ground bees, it's been in areas where the grass is kind of thin. Have you noticed that?
I have.
So that kind of goes along with what you mentioned earlier, that about some of the other problems that we have, some of the weed problems. If you do a good job of soil testing and you make sure you try to get your turf as thick as you can get it, and you know, fertilize it correctly, water it correctly, mow it correctly, and all that, you may have fewer problems with these ground bees. These ground bees, I've not seen any university that recommends spraying insecticide out to kill them. They're solitary bees. You know, they're not going to sting you. They're looking for a place to burrow down in the ground to lay eggs, and you know, lay an egg, and you know, continue propagating their species. They like generally dry soil, so you know, that may indicate that you may need to irrigate a little bit more where these ground bees are. But you know, they're really not a problem. They're just kind of unsightly, and you know, they may irritate you a little bit. But I would you know, look at maybe initially putting a little water on them, and maybe chasing them out that way, and then trying to get the grass thicker where they're a problem.
I would definitely recommend that as well.
I have seen them in lawns though, and a few years ago in the Bartlett area, I saw one lawn that I've never seen so many ground bee burrows in my life. They were all over the place, and that can be irritating. It can be scary until you realize they're not going to sting you.
Sure. Sure. I recently went to a homeowner's site, and she had ground bees, but the lawn was thinned. You know, she was trying to grow the Rome grass type, you know, under a lot of shade. So it just thinned out her lawn, and you know, ground bees were all over the place. And it scared her, you know, because when I drove up, I could see the ground bees, you know, very visibly. They were just flying all over the place. It's like, wow, how about that?
Probably don't need to aerate.
No, because they're doing that for you. Yeah, they leave little small round holes. They sure do.
Yep.
Wow, how about that? Yeah, Mitch, these questions, they're good questions, and these are the things that we see, you know, out in our landscapes all the time. Can you use vole bait around dogs? What would happen if my dog ate some of the bait? Legit question.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. Not a good thing. Most of the rodenticides are toxic to cats and dogs, so you want to, it's a good idea to put your baits in either a closed bait station that only the vole can get into, or unless your dog is a heck of a digger, you can make a little hole in the tunnel and use a funnel and pour the bait in the tunnel so it's underground. You know, that's a couple of things that you can do. Or you can use something other than baits. You can use live traps to catch them, or you know, the snap traps and things like that. Set you up a bait station with 5 or 6 of those traps, and go back and you know, collect voles every once in a while. And of course, I guess your dog get his nose caught in the snap trap too. But it won't kill him. Yeah, it won't kill him. Yeah, but you don't. You want to make sure that any rodenticide that you have it in an area that pets can't get to.
Right.
I'm not sure they would eat it.
Right.
Because it's not normally attractive to dogs or cats, but some dogs will eat anything. I don't know about cats, but some dogs will, I think they'll eat, I mean, I've seen dogs eat rocks.
Oh my goodness.
Some dogs are real smart.
So definitely want to be careful around your pets and around little kids.
Children also.
Yeah, definitely want to be careful around little kids. We don't want them getting into these baits. Remember, we love to hear from you. send us a letter or an email with your gardening questions. Send your email to familyplot@wkno.org. The mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. That's all we have time for today. Hope you enjoyed all those answers. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next time for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.